3.5 for Robert. Again, not the worst movie ever. Just not my favorite Indiana Jones movie.
Yeah, that agreed.
Yes.
And speaking of child enslavement and sacrifice, if we move on to our next topic.
Yes, we do. It's kind of hilarious how things kind of work out, and just like because I was just like as we were kind of going through the review for Temple of Doom, I was like holy when we were talking about like the cult and like the kidnapping of children and the brainwashing, I was like, oh my god, this is like this. This was meant to be because everything kind of like lined up perfectly, especially like again like the things that are happening this week. So
yeah, it's
So take it away, Robert.
So a couple weeks ago, it's been a few more like I would say about a month ago, there was a TED Talk that was put out. God, I cannot remember this chick's name.
Miriam something or other?
Yeah, Miriam something or other. I can't remember her name at the top of my head right now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there was I think they were like in Germany or Austria or one of those like kind of like Midwestern European countries.
Yeah. Was it Warsaw?
Was it in Poland?
I don't know. I remember it started with a W. But anyways, continue.
Anyways, so pretty much, and I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of TED Talks. I think they're kind of,
admittedly, I was initially because I thought initially there were some really interesting things being talked about or discussed, but
I think a lot of them are for pretentious assholes, but that's just me. That's
fine. I was a pretentious asshole. All right, jeez.
But this particular one, the topic was on why we should normalize pedophilia, which is a pretty horrific kind of sounding topic, and for me that's one road that I can't just let that go away and just like, hey, it's okay, like kind of it's some people can't help it or whatever kind of like crazy like liberal mindset that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
And it just there about 15 or so years ago, a lot of I'd been hearing a lot of stuff about pedophilia and people doing stuff with kids, and there was obviously a lot of the stuff that was going on with the Catholic Church, and you have people with tinfoil hats like Corey Feldman saying there's all these people in Hollywood that are doing stuff to young kids, and even as like I got older and went through school, and I was working with like youth kids, and kind of the thought that like, it seems like it's kind of like this crazy witch hunt that people are being accused of pedophilia or whatever, and it just didn't seem it didn't seem like it was gonna like that big of a problem. But now, like, the more that I look into this, and the more that more and more information is coming out, where it's like, it not only is it not just some crazy conspiracy theory, but it's more debased and disgusting than I ever realized, and we can't just let people hide this in a corner somewhere and just say like, and not pretend like it's okay or whatever. We can't let like this type of message is. I'm never for like censorship, but hey, say what you want, but I think this kind of crap needs to be exposed, and these like people that are, buying into this kind of stuff, something needs to happen.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, if you guys were tuning in to see a spirited debate, me taking the opposing side and and defending it, you guys are dumb as rocks. All right, you guys are dumb as rocks. If you thought that we're gonna, if we were gonna, if you came to see a spirited debate about, me taking, kind of like taking the devil's advocate positions, like you guys are fucking morons.
This is not pancakes versus waffles. This is
yes, I know, which I think that pancakes are the superior breakfast food item.
God!
But that's a debate for a different time. But yeah, it's truly amazing because they've already even before they put out this TED Talk, they were already trying to do it. Salon put out that article, defending pedophiles, and also they did like that video editorial, thing, kind of applauding this guy who said, yes, I'm attracted to minors or whatever, but I've never acted on it. And it's like, oh well, he's like, like they wanted to throw him a fucking a parade.
Yeah, and then there's been a lot of this talk of, now that they're coming out with these weird sex robots, it's like, oh, should we make them, some of them look like kids,
right? So they could
pedophiles.
Yeah, so they can indulge in their depravity. But we gotta ask yourself, to what point will that doll no longer satisfy?
Yeah,
I mean, I think that's a fair question. Like, at what? Okay, fine. Let's grant you the robot child sex dolls. But then, at what point will that no longer suffice, and they actually have to go out and I don't know, rape a child?
Say, well, okay, we'll only allow them one kid, but one, just one,
Right, then it becomes like the slippery slope. It's like, all right, we'll allow you one. It's like, well, he's like, you had the one. It's like, oh, well, we don't want to be mean, so okay, we'll give you one more.
Right.
And then where does it stop? I mean, as a society, we have to agree upon certain standards. And one of those standards should be the protection of children. No matter what.
Yeah.
And like, and even like, the drag queen kids. And I'm not knocking, grown men who want to grown men who want to put on makeup and dress like women. I'm not knocking that, but I am against the sexualization of children, and that's what that is.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's what makeup is for. It's to mimic physiological signifiers within human females of sexual arousal.
Yeah, that's why, like, the other thing, like those, what is it, the you remember the whole, like, Jean-Benet Ramsey, and like she was doing those like pageants.
Yeah.
Like, I think like those like kid pageants and stuff, those are kind of creepy too.
I remember when TLC did that show, Toddlers and Tiaras. Yeah,
Oh,
it gave me kind of an icky feeling. I watched a couple of episodes, but I was like, man, this kind of makes me feel. This doesn't feel right.
no, I saw like 2 seconds of that. I was like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, this is disgusting.
Right? Yeah. It's just like,
was
yeah,
pretty,
it did it.
I was
Yeah,
pretty
I didn't feel right. It's just like something. I recognized it even back then. It's like something is wrong. This isn't right. Like
well, like
getting.
you said, it's that sexualization of kids.
Mhm.
It's disgusting.
Yeah. And and it's funny because like how quickly TED Talks took it off their YouTube channel. Like that,
Yeah.
you go and find it in like from other people who have archived it and who have mirrored it like maybe like offsite or maybe or they have to do like the what is it the fair use thing and have to provide commentary to make it transformative and not just like
Right.
a re-upload.
I probably we probably both had the FBI looking at us after like we did like an extensive search for this damn thing,
Yeah.
trying to find out what was actually said and like what the whole message was, which I I can never get that 15 minutes of horror back.
Yeah. I mean,
I think the scary thing is like not only were there people in the audience and maybe like okay, maybe going in it's like, oh, there's gonna be a TED Talk, cool, and like they go in, they don't really know what the topic's gonna be, so I'll give them like, okay, granted there's probably gonna be an audience, but then after hearing for like 2 minutes what this legitimate crazy person is saying, why there's anybody left in the audience at the end of that damn video is beyond me.
And they applauded. They applauded.
Unless it was just a audience full of pedophiles. It's like, thank God somebody's standing up for us.
I mean, and here's the funny thing, because like I wasn't trying to burn. I wasn't trying to like burn anything into my brain watching that thing. But it was funny because the presenter, she pulled out, she offered some statistics, and she said that what is it that of the population of pedophiles, only 20% molest or abuse children.
Wow.
20%.
Yeah, I remember that too.
20%. Yeah. That is a remarkable number, because if you guys don't remember back in like maybe like 5 years ago, people were going crazy about the supposed rape culture or rapes happening on college campuses, and they're offering up that completely bogus statistic of 1 in 5 women on college campuses are being raped. And if you take that, the 1 in 5, that's 20%. That's 20%, and they're saying, back then they were saying that that's unacceptable. That 20% of women or of people being raped on college campuses is unacceptable. But then you have this TED Talk where this woman puts out that only 20% of the pedophile population are harming children, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's not so bad." It's like, what?
Yeah.
Are you freaking kidding me? How is it okay? How is it not okay that people are getting raped on college campuses? 20% of people on college campuses are being raped, but then that's not okay. But then you have 20% of a population are the ones doing harm, but that's fine because it's not oh, it's not 30%. It's like, well, then at what percentage would it not be okay for children to be abused?
It's fucking horrific.
I know,
And
right?
I think it comes from a I don't know if it's a hatred for children or what's going on in our society nowadays, but it's let's come up with these fake stats on rape culture on college campuses that doesn't exist.
Yeah, and the actual statistic is like 1 in 50.
Yeah, which is still horrific.
Yeah, again, like I'm not saying that. let's not get it twisted. I'm not saying that rape is okay. If it's a small number.
Ooh,
I'm saying that even one rape is too much. Okay, let's get that straight. I'm saying that even one rape is too much. But it's not. But let's be honest. All right, the rape rate is not 20%. That's all I'm saying.
And we're talking actual rape, not some like fake definition of
right.
Rape.
Yeah, which
strange rape.
Yeah,
that's not rape.
Which they even admitted to, like expanding the definition, like when they did like calls or whatever. It's like, oh well, it's like, have you ever felt like have you ever felt uncomfortable around a person? It's like yes, okay, that's rape. Or like were you ever touched inappropriately, regardless of context? Like maybe you were in a crowded hallway and a guy was walking by and his hand accidentally grazed your butt. But it's right. Like, yeah, but again, like take it out of context. It's like, okay, have you ever been touched inappropriately? Well, technically that would be a yes. So it's like, oh right, that's rape. And it's like, yeah, what? So their methodology is flawed because they're looking for an outcome before they even get the data.
Yeah, and that's like I said. But the fact that there's even that 1 in 50 is still bad. But the fact that you look at where even by their the crazy logic that this probably fake statistics that this person put out on this talk was even with those numbers. Oh, only 20% of these people are really like acting upon their desires,
urges or whatever.
That's horrible.
That's what I'm saying.
That's horrible.
I know. Like, how is it that we abide 20% of a group who are abusing children, but we don't allow? Does not error does not compute.
And yeah, there's just I was pretty horrified watching that TED Talk, and
yeah, me too.
In one sense, I'm glad they took it down, but
I'm not.
In the other sense, it's like I think that it should be exposed, and that people that are advocating for this, this kind of thing, like they should be drug out in the middle of the street and shot.
Yeah, I mean, because because then people might argue, it's like, oh well, this isn't like some mainstream thing. It's like, it's TED Talk. It's as mainstream as it gets.
Yeah, exactly.
This wasn't on this wasn't hosted by NAMBLA or whatever, or some like fringe group. Yeah, this was right. TED Talk.
That's why I couldn't believe that when I first heard that. I was like, when I heard about this, I was like, wait, a TED Talk? What, they were advocating for this? Who allowed it? First of all, who allowed this person to, come on did they not know like what she was going to end up talking about, and they were horrified when they found out, or is it just like, yeah, come on, let's we'll have an open conversation?
Well, I mean, I heard that like even after like a day of it being up on their page, like it was getting terrible ratios, like massive like downvotes, as
That's somewhat
as it rightfully should have been.
yeah, that's somewhat encouraging that there's still a semblance of sanity out there.
Right? Because I mean, yeah, I watched that talk, and all I could think about is like all of my like nieces and nephews, and uh, like all of my my friends' kids, who are still like little children. I'm just like, it's like, so you're saying that like within the pedophile group, 20% wants to abuse my nieces and nephews and my friends' kids. I was like, no, that's when we start taking access to nuts.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's yeah, it's yeah, it's horrific, man. It's like, these people rip the innocence away from children far too early, and the scary thing is that this is one of those weird things that it it's almost like a disease that gets passed on,
Yeah.
where the people that were abused, they either end up getting caught up in a, and this isn't 100%, but there's there's a lot of studies there, or stats that show like a lot of them end up either getting involved with drugs, become like severely depressed, kill themselves, or even worse, they become a serial predator for kids themselves.
Yeah. It's what is it? It's like what's that movie where like or I don't know. It's kind of like an old trope where like within like science fiction or like fantasy where like this malevolent spirit it like gets like passed between people. Oh wait, what was that Denzel movie? Um,
Oh,
like yeah,
damn,
he like there was like yeah there was like some like Denzel's a cop and he puts away this murder, but then like the murder like touches someone just before he's executed, and then like this malevolent spirit goes into that person and like kind of like toys around with Denzel. But yeah, it's kind of the whole that what you were talking about, just the cycle of of making victims. Um, yeah, that's kind of like what it is. Because you just like keep passing on like that, that malevolent spirit, and it just constantly keeps duplicating and replicating itself over and over and over again.
yeah, and it's I, you look at someone who like Corey Feldman, who everyone's like being called and don't get me wrong, he is a legitimate crazy person, but I think he was probably driven crazy because of a lot of the abuse that he and Corey Haim took, and he shares that he believes that Corey Haim got involved with drugs and ended up killing himself because of all the abuse that he went under as a kid.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt that I truly believe. Yeah. Corey. It was Haim. Yeah, it was Corey Haim. He was completely damaged, and he was completely
Yeah,
ruined. He was completely ruined as a human being because of the abuse that
but
he suffered.
yeah, but then you look at Elijah Wood has come out and he's talked about this stuff. There, who else uh, came out about this? There was some other like pretty other fairly big name actors that like had come out with this stuff. I remember too. There was a former hockey player, pretty high up there. I think it was, and I could be getting this wrong, but I think it was Theoren Fleury, who was a fairly high up there hockey player, and he said that he ended up going through a lot of issues because like he had a coach that ended up molesting him as a kid, and then you had obviously you have the whole stuff that was going on with like Jerry Sandusky with Penn State, and who knows like how much of that was like covered up or who knew what. And then this is all the stuff that Tommy Robinson has been fighting over in England with all those Islamic grooming gangs that are trying to fuck kids over there, and he's probably going to die in prison because of he's, God forbid, trying to protect kids.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely. 'Cause Tommy Robinson, he was like calling it out forever. He was like, because he just kept seeing like all of like the unchecked migration and he was just calling it out as like he called it. He was calling it like he saw it. Everyone was like, kept telling him, oh, keep your mouth shut, but it's like, he's one of the good guys. He was calling out evil.
Yeah. And the other, what was it? Who was that? Who was that guy that was connected to the Hillary campaign that ended up getting caught with a bunch of child pornography? Do you remember?
Oh, was it Wiener?
Yeah, I think that was him.
Yeah, well, I mean, Wiener was the husband to Huma Abedin, who was, Hillary's right hand.
Right. There was that, and then Jared Fogle that ended up getting caught with child pornography.
Right.
There was what was it? There's a really funny comedy bit by a guy named Joe DeRosa, and he had this whole bit about how like celebrities have like a giant ego, and how so many of them can just, depending on like how like famous you are, you can kind of pretty much get away with anything. And it's like, but then you have like these fake celebrities like Jared Fogle, when we showed him real fucking quick what we thought of his celebrity status. He was definitely no Michael Jackson, and I guess there was lots come out about what Michael Jackson was actually like really into and stuff, and
I mean, it's funny because people completely gloss over the fact that they found like that treasure trove at Neverland, where he had like photographs of like Macaulay Culkin, and I mean they didn't go into too much detail, but it was a secret room, and it was filled with like I mean, at the very least, it's been reported on that there were photographs of Macaulay Culkin. So it's not much of a stretch to imagine that there might have been, or there probably was kiddie porn in that room.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and they were saying that there was there was stuff that had to do with like S&M with kids and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like that's really horrific. The other, and my guess is that I bet you that Michael Jackson was probably abused sexually when he was a kid with the Jackson 5. I guarantee it.
Oh, absolutely.
By who? Who knows? But it probably happened.
Well, I mean, if he was being physically abused by his father, then I don't know. It's I mean I don't see much of a stretch for it to come out that that it was his father that sexually abused him too.
I wasn't going there, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, like I wouldn't be surprised, but also because he was in like that the big Hollywood, well, kind of like Hollywood music industry machine at a very young age, and
Yeah.
people and the whole thing about like Corey Feldman coming out and saying, yeah, I was abused, and so was Corey Haim, and then you know. Elijah Wood coming out and saying like well he wait, did he say that he was abused too, or because he's always asserted that his mother protected him really well against that.
He was saying, I don't know if he was necessarily, I don't remember if he said he was abused himself, but he's very aware of the fact that there's a huge problem in Hollywood,
Okay.
like stuff that's going on with kids. Because I think he was like talking about how he was approached, like to like, oh, if you don't do this, then you're not gonna get like certain parts or whatever. He's like,
Right,
yeah,
right.
but I'm
Well, yeah, because like because I think a lot of it they disguise it as like business meetings, or like kind of where like the agent would go, would take the kids essentially away from the parents and say, oh, we have to go to this event. It'll be really good for some exposure and yada yada, some sort of like festival or whatever. And
right.
then like so it'd be an unaccompanied minor, essentially. And then like yeah, and then like the agent or whatever would then like they would freaking eyes wide shut with with the kids.
Yeah, really. Oh,